In today's episode of the Patchworks Presents podcast, I'm here with Darren Gallagher, who is hailing over from Patchworks. And Patchworks is, how could you say, a leading integration platform for e-commerce businesses. And they basically help you folks, especially if you're you're running or running operations for an e-commerce business. They help you to automate and manage essentially the flow of all the data that is moving across your different tools and within the business so that you can keep an overview. So I'm excited to have Darren on the show. Welcome.
Hi, Lucas.
Awesome. I gave a little overview, but I guess you're the expert. You know much better than me. So tell me, what is Patchworks all about?
Yeah, well, I think it was a really clear overview, but just to go a bit further into it, Patchworks understands that e-commerce businesses in particular have lots of different data sets, and often software that's used doesn't talk to each other, I suppose is the simplest way to put it. So when you're looking at software and you're looking at all of the data that goes into it, what normally happens is e-commerce businesses start off small. You start off in your spare room or in your garage, and you set up a really simple website using, Shopify or BigCommerce or any of the other kind of e-commerce tools. And at the end of the day, you'll download your data, you'll fulfill your orders. Now, as you start to scale and grow that business, a lot of the scaling and growing really depends on how fast you can fulfill orders and how efficiently you can do it. So to take one example, you may then decide to move over to a third-party logistics company where someone else looks after your stock and ships it for you. If at the end of the day, you're having to download that data from your Shopify website, change the data set and then upload it to your logistics company, you're taking time and resource to do that. And in between that time, you may have sold certain SKUs, certain stock products through a different channel, which means when they come to be fulfilled, they may not be there. So what Patchworks do is offer integrations, which in order to make all that data kind of talk together and just move a little bit more freely between each other. And that can really help with, everything. It can help with customer satisfaction. But I think the real thing that it helps with is making your business be able to grow quicker.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, I see. So that is interesting because there's very different types of and sizes of e-commerce companies. You mentioned specifically if they're becoming more sophisticated. Obviously, the integrations are relevant. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the types of companies that you're working with. It's obviously e-commerce, but maybe, who's the typical client who's raising their hand and says, we need something like Patchworks?
So there are absolutely loads of, the scale is huge, and it's almost too hard to put into a simple answer. We work with companies who are as big as Gymshark, and we work with much smaller retailers as well. We also work with really bespoke kind of brands who are doing something very unique within their market. The real key to this is that it's businesses who know they want to grow or to provide more to their customers, and they know that the way they're doing it at the moment isn't as efficient as it could be. So it's those companies that have got a really holistic view over their customer and their customer journey. So it can be any size of company, really. It's just about them understanding that they've got this problem and understanding there is a solution to it. And a lot of the time, speaking about the bigger companies that we work with, what happens is they grow from nothing. They grow very fast and it's almost unexpected, and they fall into patterns of doing things that they've always done. So, we've always had people downloading data and uploading it to different systems. We've always had people converting Excel spreadsheets, etc. What they then realize is that there is a more efficient and more accurate way to do that.
Yep, makes a whole lot of sense. Would it be sort of, the founders still reaching out because they need, better operations, or are those companies, I'm assuming they're even as sophisticated as somebody in operations or, figures out about Patchworks? Like, where does it typically sit, the product?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And a lot of the work we do is with founders, because they're the ones that have seen the business grow and they've seen it since the beginning. And they're the ones that realize there might be a different way of doing things. As companies grow, you usually get those kind of I suppose, three main areas. You get an operations growth, you get sort of technology or development, and you get the marketing and sales thing. And there's all often this blurred line between where the data moves between. If you think about the product in itself, you're selling through the website. When you sell a product, often an email goes back, which is usually looked after by the kind of sales and marketing team. The order then goes into the operations side to be fulfilled by the warehouse, but the actual website itself is often maintained by a different team. So what normally happens is that at some level, usually quite high up within the organization, founder level, if it gets to if it gets bigger, the kind of boardroom stage, someone goes, well, hang on a minute, we need to join all of this up. And that's exactly what we do at Patchworks. We're about connecting, and we're about making connections between all of those different business systems and making them all work together.
Makes sense. How do those founders, how do they hear about you? Like, what's a typical journey that somebody would be going through? In other words, what would be sort of the key client acquisition channels that you guys are leveraging?
Yeah, there are three kind of main ways that people will hear about us and start their journey. The first is that a company will have a website built on an e-commerce system which may not be as they want it as they grow, and they may want to have more kind of control over it. So they may approach a web dev agency or a marketing agency who do web development, and they may say to them, look, we're looking at migrating to a different e-commerce system. However, we use this system in order to fulfill our orders, or we use this system in order to look after our business when it comes to like an ERP, etc. What can we do? And that agency may then go, well, that's absolutely fine. We can rebuild your website on this e-commerce system. But what we would highly recommend is that you get an integration so that all of the data moves freely between each other. And sometimes for businesses, this is like a light bulb moment. This is like, wow, we never realized it could do that. So not only are we exploring a new e-commerce platform, but we're actually exploring a way of making our business operations work more easily. So we've got agencies, and a lot of work we do is talking to agencies and making sure that they're clear on how we can do that. And we're basically, a business partner to agencies. We also have partners, which is a huge channel. So those providers themselves who build e-commerce platforms, who build ERPs, the NetSuite Oracles of the world, etc. We work with them. The 3PLs, Peoplebox, and all of those logistics companies. Often they'll speak to their clients, and their clients will say to them, well, we're really looking for a way to make this more seamless. What can you suggest? And they'll refer to us as well. And then the last kind of channel, if you will, is direct to us. And the amount of search that we get for people looking for integrations between systems, because they've realized that, maybe it's one too many customer complaint, maybe it's one too many lost day, maybe they've sold an absolute shed load of stock at Black Friday, and they've decided, oh my God, we can't go through another year of having to call friends and family and to help us pack boxes. How do we make this work better? And they start doing a little bit of literature kind of search and knowledge desk kind of research then. And so they'll find us directly. So really it's those three channels. It's either through a referral from a partner or an agency, or just coming directly to us.
Gotcha. We always love to learn about what's going on the website here in the podcast, but I want to jump first a little bit into the agency partnerships, because we have, and it actually came up a couple of times in sort of, the community of Patchworks Presents listeners. What have you experienced? Like, what is a good way to build up that, network of agencies, how you guys have been addressing this? Maybe tell us a little bit about how you guys are, working with agencies and how they get started working with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, our agency kind of partnership program is in its real infancy, and we're redeveloping as we speak, actually. And what we've decided to do is move towards a referral program. So we've got an agency lead or a partnerships lead employed within Patchworks, and her job is to reach out to agencies, to talk to them, and to make them, aware of what we offer. We then encourage them to go and sign up on the website, which enrolls them into a monthly email that we do, so a newsletter. And then we use a system called Referral Rock, which basically allows them to refer clients to us, and they can do it via the website. And the best thing with that is for agencies in particular, is when they refer work to us, if we then pick up the lead and speak to the client and have the meeting, and it all goes well, it then basically triggers an instant payment to the agency So that's how we built the referral scheme, and that's how it works really well at the moment with agencies in particular.
It's interesting. Josh from Referral, he was actually on the Path and Present show not too long ago. So exciting that path of crossing here. Okay. Any tips that you can give for SaaS founders and marketing teams? Like any tips about contacting agencies, because agencies are getting bombarded with new tools and offers. Anything that you guys have learned?
I think it's about really making sure that you understand the value proposition of your business. So it's making sure that you understand what your business offers to the end user via the agency. So it's really a two-way street. And when I talk about Patchworks and us being kind of, I suppose, obsessed with connections and integrations, the idea behind all of connections and integrations is that everyone, we connect everyone so that things work better. E-commerce doesn't stand alone in any way. There's this massive ecosystem that everything has to connect and talk to each other. And if it doesn't, you run into problems. So actually, when an agency is dealing, specifically like an e-commerce web development agency is dealing with quite a small part of that puzzle, it's about really making sure that when they're then talking to clients, they understand that that is a part of the puzzle. And when I say a small part of the puzzle, it's a very vital part of the puzzle, but it is just one piece in order, the gateway to the order. You've then got all of the people, having to fulfill orders, and you've got the customer service teams who, if the orders aren't fulfilled correctly or, within a good kind of time scale, they're going to receive complaints. So I think the main thing with talking to agencies is invest some time in them, make sure that you are building a kind of resilient and robust partnerships team alongside your sales team. So make sure that they are having those great conversations, make sure that, they're able to speak to someone directly, and make sure that you can enable them as well. So sales enablement, referral, we just mentioned it. What a great product. It enables agencies to directly refer links to us. And this isn't about, them referring links to us in order to make a quick buck. This is about doing what's best for their client at the end of the day. And agencies, are always out to kind of retain their clients and make sure they do what's best for them. So building those relationships, making sure they understand that we're a great partner to work with and that we do best by clients, and making sure that we kind of, support and motivate them as well, I think.
Very cool. Let's chat about the website a little bit. That's obviously always a big topic on Pathmark Presents. What role do you attribute to the website Patchworks? We are patchworks.com for everybody who's listening. You can check it out. What role do you attribute to the page for the business?
So the website for us is a really interesting kind of tool, and we kind of see it as that. It's a way in order to make people aware of what we offer. I think because we're traditionally an iPaaS who have grown up through development, we've been quite techy on our website, and we speak quite technically about the product and about how integrations work. And as we kind of develop and move into kind of a more mass market, if you will, and as we grow, we're going to be trying to kind of changing that messaging to really talk about what we offer and what the solutions we offer are. So for the website ourselves, we see it very much as a tool of giving the information to people, making them aware of how they can contact us. But it is very much that information kind of thing. It's non-transactional at the moment. You can't currently sign up to us via the website. You fill out a form and you speak to us, and we either phone and do a demo or we have a call with you. So we have that kind of personal kind of transaction in place. So at the moment, our website is for information and to really help people understand more about the offer that we have.
And the recent theme in the show has been sort of talking a little bit about sort of the analytical insights that one can get specifically for lead generation from the website. What have you found to be sort of the biggest challenge in figuring out why people wouldn't convert right on the page? The value proposition is clear. Like, what have you guys been investigating in terms of conversions?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's not to say that we won't ever, do conversions via the website. It's not to say that we won't ever sell directly on the website. It's now, as the product is still, growing and still very much can be bespoke depending on what people's needs are. We feel that we need to have that extra connection with them.
100%.
And we would rather make sure that we pick up the phone have a Teams call, have a Zoom call, and make sure that what we're offering is a full-fledged solution, as opposed to just, I suppose, selling something off the shelf and then realizing that they need an extra bit to it, or, something along those lines. So building those personal connections is really important at the moment to the business.
It makes a whole lot of sense. What I was referring to was essentially even signing up for a conversation, right? And even signing up for maybe a product demo might be a conversion on the website. Is that something that you guys are, investigating? Is that something how you thinking about website conversion? Even if it's for a demo or a sales conversation.
Yeah, we are. I think, to be honest, we're thinking more. We get a nice lot of traffic to the website, and we do get a nice lot of signups. We're thinking more about elongating our sales funnel at the moment, and maybe making it a bit clearer along the sales funnel. So it's something we're definitely investigating. I think one thing we have learned, and I think as we've gone further into the kind of sales space, is that we realize that people do need a bit more time in order to investigate. So, you mentioned it yourself. Bringing those case studies to life, making sure that people understand, all of the different touch points before the sale's actually done is really important to us. So we're always looking at ways to increase conversion. We're always looking at ways to, get people to submit that form. But at the moment we're getting them, we're getting good amounts of numbers, and we're looking at that next stage really about in terms of nurturing the leads that do come through.
Very cool. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you personally and your role and your journey within marketing. So I would be curious, right? There's so much content out there where people can read and learn about marketing. You yourself, for example, you hold a lot of certificates, might it be from Google, from Microsoft. There's so much to learn. How do you filter? Like, where do you decide on a daily basis? Like, what is material that you like to engage with so that you keep learning?
Yeah, I think for me, learning's always been really important for my kind of personal journey. I knew from a young age that I wanted to do something that allowed me to be in a kind of marketing field. I've always been really interested in people and the kind of people journey of buying, whether they're buying a river cruise from my past or a bouquet of flowers. So what I basically always do is just think about what the next natural step is, and whether it's going to have a value add to myself and what I'm doing professionally. So I've looked at education training. I've worked in education, so Microsoft Educator was a really great course looking at how then those tools can be used by students. And the real purpose of picking up things like that is making sure that I understand what the students are going through and what their journey is. So I personally think that anything that helps you understand the customer aids your being able to market better to them, to develop that proposition. So I'm really keen on anything that helps you understand your customer base. So, you're talking to me now. This is helping you understand the customer base. You're understanding us as a potential customer at some point down the line. I worked for a long time marketing river cruises at a company called Viking, and I used to volunteer to come in at the weekends and pick up the phones and speak to customers. I was selling cruises to them, but what I was actually doing was listening to how they speak about the cruises. I was listening to, the verbiage they use. I was listening to, how they spoke about them. And that gave me an insight, which is far greater than anything that I could learn in a classroom. However, completing my master's in psychology has given me an insight into why people act in certain ways and sell. So you've got to just focus on doing training and learning that really focuses your brain on what you want to do. But always remember, at the end of the day, especially in marketing, we're enabling sales, or we're enabling change in some kind of way. And to understand that endpoint, the end user, will never hurt.
Good. I mean, super interesting. That is a very interesting, and you're right. Also, podcasts like these, they, enable those conversations with, like-minded folks. Very interesting. So, I have a couple of rapid fire questions to finish up the interview. Ready for those?
I'm ready.
Very good. What's the last book you read?
Oh my goodness. I read a book called The Nickel Boys. But I've completely forgotten who the author is, and I'm looking over onto my book stand. But yeah, a book called The Nickel Boys by Conrad. I believe he's called something Conrad.
Hmm. What's the one single thing the company's focused on the most at the moment?
Growth.
Hmm. If there would be no boundaries in tech, what's the one thing you would fix for your role today?
Oh my goodness. I suppose no boundaries in everything, not just tech, but I would like to be able to speak to all of our customers directly at once.
Hmm. What is the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Nothing. I've never been kept awake by anything in my life. If I'm ever worried, I sleep more. So it's the wrong question for me.
Very good. And the very last question, I want to, sort of get back to the days of Leeds back at university. You mentioned the Masters of Psychology. Um, if you today would be stepping out of the educational room, and I mean, you prior to the the masters, you had a lot of experience in marketing, and also after. What's the one advice you would give yourself for moving forward into your career?
Always to be kind to yourself. So it actually was something I learned via adopting my son as opposed to being in the classroom. But when I first started the adoption process, I know this rapid fire, so I'll be really quick. When I first started the adoption process, I was a bit hard-nosed, a bit markety, a bit sales. And they started talking about being kind to yourself and all of this stuff, which I thought was BS. And basically going through that process and understanding, learning about empathy and understanding where some of these children have had experiences and the experiences of their greater family, of their wider families, or in their birth families, has really helped me understand to be kind to myself. So I think, yeah, the one thing I've learned throughout the whole of life, and the most important thing I can kind of pass on to anyone, is take a step back, have a breath, be kind to yourself, and go for a walk and drink a glass of water.
Nice. Darren, I really appreciate you taking the time with us today and share your insights, your journey, a little bit about Patchworks, how you're thinking about growth, and also your personal journey. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Patchworks today, what's the one thing they should remember?
The one thing that they should remember about Patchworks is that we're here to help businesses. So if you're in a business, an e-commerce business of any shape or size, and you feel that you aren't doing things as well as you could be, we can probably help you.
Very good. Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.